Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Today we're going to be talking about light skin privilege and colorism, and this is actually going to be a response to an episode of MTV's Decoded with Francesca Ramsey. Yeah, it's been a while since we did one of those. And this response actually was requested by someone who sent me the original MTV video. And by the way, if you guys ever see something out there that you want to hear me respond to, feel free to send it to me on Twitter at @TheLaurenChen. Just write me a little tweet. Tag me. But before we get into it, some of you at this point might be wondering what the heck is colorism, because that's not a term that we hear all too often. Well, to explain colorism and how it differs from racism, allow me to present to you this clip from a different episode of MTV Decoded that focuses on colorism in the Latinx community specifically.
Racism involves discrimination based on things such as skin color, but it's also dependent on power dynamics that become perpetuated by years of structural oppression. Black and Latino men getting longer sentences for the same crime as white men, racism. Black and Latino aunts telling you to date light-skinned men, colorism. Because we often conflate race with skin color, sometimes distinguishing between colorism and racism can get tricky, particularly in Latin American communities, where someone's heritage might include a combination of indigenous, black, and white European ancestry.
Okay, so aside from the fact that no, racism is not dependent on having systemic power to enforce your prejudices, individuals of any race can be prejudiced and therefore racist against individuals of any other race. Basically, what I gathered from that episode, as well as perusing woke Twitter, is that racism usually applies to different races being prejudiced against each other, like a black person against a Chinese person or a white person against a black person. But colorism, on the other hand, would be showing preference for one person over another because they have lighter skin, even though both people come from the same race. If that makes sense.
Okay, first of all, she is fucking wrong. I'm trying not to pause the video because I already know this bitch video is like 15 minutes. But no, you are fucking wrong. Racism is systematic oppression. As I've said this before, I've told y'all my unpopular opinions. I believe only white people can be racist. It's not systematically oppressing that somebody calls you a fucking cracker because you have a nasty ass attitude. That's not systematically oppressing. Even if you don't have a nasty attitude. We've talked about this before, but let me reel it back in.
For example, racism would be, I don't want to hire any black candidates, whereas colorism would be, there are 2 black applicants, I'ma hire the lighter-skinned one.
In the world of pop culture, darker-skinned women have frequently gotten the short end of the success stick. Just consider the most successful black female singers in the last decade. You could probably come up with dozens of names, including Alicia Keys, Ciara, Mariah Carey, Jhené Aiko, and of course, Beyonce. But can you name even 5 deeply melanated female pop stars?
Essentially, the whole premise behind this video is that lighter-skinned black people are more accepted and promoted in the media than darker-skinned black people. And if you just go off that list that Francesca provided, I think you might be inclined to say, yeah, it does seem like light-skinned black people are getting all the attention. But I just don't think things are that simple. Number one, there are successful, deeper-skinned black musicians out there. You have people like Azalea Banks, or however you say it, and Lil' Kim, plus Missy Elliott, which brings us to the second issue I have with this, which is that categorizing and ranking people based on their skin lightness is A, not that easy, and B, also kind of weird. What I mean is that later on in this video, Francesca mentions both Nicki Minaj and Rihanna as examples of light-skinned black women. But if you actually look at pictures of them, it seems as if they, like anyone else, have skin tones that can be perceived as being lighter or deeper depending on the lighting, maybe what makeup they're wearing, or what clothes they have on. To be fair, Francesca herself does mention that the term light skin is relative, but still, I think by trying to have a discussion about light-skin privilege, which begins with categorizing people into either light-skinned or not light-skinned categories, we're kind of almost enforcing divisions among skin tone by, you know, testing and separating people based on skin tone. And the third issue I have with picking a bunch of light-skinned black people and then saying, look, light-skinned black people are having all the successes, is that most black people living in the United States are actually part white and therefore more likely to be lighter skinned than a black person who is actually from Africa. It's been estimated that the average African American is anywhere from 16 to 24% European. Realistically speaking, there are just quite a good amount of light-skinned black people in the United States. So seeing them be successful in different industries doesn't really tell us much in and of itself.
From Lena Horne, the first black actress to sign a major studio deal, to Halle Berry, the first black actress to win a Best Actress Academy Award, lighter-skinned and often mixed-race women have usually broken through society's biggest barriers first. Now, this isn't to say they weren't hardworking or didn't deserve it, but black people with lighter skin, straighter hair, and more Eurocentric features have always been more likely to be given the paltry number of opportunities to access white spaces and institutions. This is the reality, but why?
Now, this clip was the part of the video that really convinced me, yeah, I need to respond to this because it perfectly exemplifies the left's obsession with having a privilege/oppression hierarchy. While most people would look at Halle Berry winning an Oscar and say what an amazing achievement, way to break down barriers and show that historical roadblocks to black people are being chipped away, a progressive identitarian who's also into intersectionality would look at the same situation and say, this is just another example of lighter skinned people having privilege over darker skinned people. You see, this is where the purity spiraling starts to begin, because we're no longer asking ourselves, is a black person winning an Oscar? We're talking about, is a black enough person winning an Oscar? And frankly, as someone who is biracial, half Chinese, half white, I think I'm especially aware of this kind of thinking because, and I don't mean to sound like an SJW here, but it is used so often to delegitimize and marginalize the experiences of lighter-skinned and multiracial people. As someone who is light-skinned and a lot of people would say white passing, whenever I talk about the fact that I don't believe systemic racial discrimination is a huge problem in the West, I'm always told that my opinion doesn't count or is irrelevant because I have light skin privilege or passing privilege, which is kind of frustrating because for someone who apparently has all the same privileges as a white person, it seems like whenever someone wants to attack me, one of the first things they go after is the fact that I am Chinese. The far left calls me an Uncle Chan, the far right calls me a mongrel, and that's all in addition to the sprinkling of Chun-Lis that I get. And although Francesca made a point to say that light skin privilege doesn't invalidate the hard work that light skinned people like Halle Berry had to put into their careers, which I appreciate, other people aren't so nuanced when it comes to the issue. I get told all the time that the only reason I have an audience is that people either think that I'm white or they're using me as a token for diversity. And the thing here is that I'm not trying to dismiss everything Francesca is saying, because I do think that colorism or having a preference for lighter skin is a real thing, which we'll get to in just a second. It's just that this whole conversation surrounding light skin privilege, in my opinion, currently serves to demonize light skin minorities, just like the conversation surrounding white privilege right now demonizes white people.
A 2011 study conducted in North Carolina found out that of the over 12,000 African American women prisoners, light-skinned women were sentenced to 12% less prison time than darker ones. Or consider the fact that according to a Harvard University study, dark-skinned blacks in the United States have lower socioeconomic status, more punitive relationships with the criminal justice system, diminished prestige, and less likelihood of holding elective office compared with their lighter counterparts.
So regarding the first study that Francesca mentioned about light-skinned women getting less prison time than dark-skinned women, I actually looked it up, and I'm pretty sure that I found the specific piece of research that she was talking about. To be honest, I didn't actually read the whole thing because from the looks of it, I would have had to have signed up and then requested it and maybe paid for it. It would have just been this whole thing. But from the abstract of that study, we can see that, quote, the analysis examined how perceived skin tone, assessed by correctional officers, related to maximum prison sentence and actual time served for over 12,000 black women imprisoned in North Carolina between 1995 and 2009. Controlling for several factors, the results indicated that black women deemed to have a lighter skin tone received more lenient prison sentences and served less time behind bars. Personally, I love it when academics and researchers in the social sciences work to produce quantitative studies instead of more what are essentially fluffy op-ed, i.e. opinion pieces. And I feel like qualitative work has become so popular in the social sciences that a lot of people nowadays are starting to view them as if they were humanities, which is not the case. Maybe I get defensive about this because I was a social science major, but seriously, it is possible to have data-based discourse in fields like psychology and political science and especially economics. With that being said though, especially when compared to the hard science sciences, it is a lot more difficult to get accurate data in the social sciences because people and economies don't exist in sterile, closed-off lab conditions. In the social sciences, there are just so many variables to control for, some of which you may not be able to accurately quantify, that it's very easy to get bad data from a study. And frankly, I think the study that Francesca mentions is an example of this. Asking individual correctional officers whether they deem certain inmates to be light-skinned or dark-skinned is not an objective or standard measure to go by. So right off the bat, I don't know how much weight we can put into this study. It's like I was saying at the beginning of this video. It's really hard to quantifiably say what is light or dark skin when it comes to black people. And that's not even to mention how
Yo, she is really pissing me off right now. First of all, she gives me this very privileged aura because I don't even know why the fuck she's talking about this. Like, yes, you are biracial, but your biracial of being white and Chinese is not anywhere near the fucking same as somebody being black and something else. It don't even have to be white, just black and something else. It's not the fucking same. So I don't know why you're speaking on this fucking situation. Or what gave you the gallbladder, the fucking cojones, to think that this was an appropriate topic for you to cover. This chick, let me try to relax and pull it back in because, let me try to relax and pull it back in.
Inherently difficult it is to quantify anything to do with the criminal justice system because there are so many different factors that might influence how long a person serves. Things like your lawyer, past criminal history, whether you pled guilty or not, whether you went to court in an urban or rural environment. There are so many things, and it is notoriously difficult to try and compare situations when it comes to sentencing. But you know what, fine, let's for a minute assume that it is true that light-skinned black women do get less prison time than dark-skinned black women. Correlation does not equal causation. And when it comes to a possible sentencing disparity between light-skinned and deeper-skinned black women, there are other explanations besides bigotry that exist. Now, this is a really subjective thing here, and I can't even believe I'm talking about this, but if someone is a lighter-skinned black person, whatever that means, then I guess it's safe to assume that they have a greater likelihood of having a white parent or maybe white grandparent. And I'm not bringing this up to say that like white people are inherently less prone to commit crimes or anything like that, and that just like transfers into light-skinned black people. Okay, nothing like that, disclaimer. But statistically, white people are less likely to be impoverished than black people, and poverty does affect likelihood to commit crime. According to the University of Washington, interracial couples with a black and white partner on average lived in areas with poverty levels around 16%. Now, although that is still pretty high, it's substantially lower than the 21.2% rate of poverty that African Americans face in general. And look, saying that lighter-skinned black people are more likely to be multiracial and therefore have different socioeconomic backgrounds on average than darker-skinned black people is not an exact science, but that's what I'm saying. None of this is an exact science. From what I've seen, there just isn't enough supporting information to say, yep, the criminal justice system is targeting darker-skinned black people because of their skin tone. And regarding Francesca's second point, that darker-skinned black people are just disadvantaged in like every way in the country, I think it's important to keep in mind that one of the most successful immigrant groups in America based on things like education and income level are Nigerian Americans. And I'm not saying that colorism isn't a thing like at all here, but saying that it's a big enough influence to actually be legit ruining some people's lives and making them stay in prison for longer? I don't know about that.
The roots of this light versus dark inequality stem all the way back to the days of slavery, when lighter-skinned slaves, often the mixed children of white slave owners, aka the product of rape, aka you're not slick Thomas Jefferson, were given domestic work as opposed to the physical labor of darker slaves, thus landing higher on the skin tone hierarchy because of their proximity to whiteness. Now, while the skin tone hierarchy known as colorism is a byproduct of white supremacy, it's not just a white thing.
Now, this is a part of the video that I feel many different types of way about. I do appreciate that Francesca tries to add historical context to this video, and it is true that historically speaking, lighter-skinned black people have been preferred over darker-skinned black people. But it kind of seems to me like she's saying that in the era of slavery in the United States, it was better to be a multiracial black person than just a straight-up black person. And
well, you are dumb
I
because nobody
disagree
said that.
with that. In the past, Interracial relationships were one of the biggest taboos imaginable. They were illegal until not that long ago, even in the United States. So with that in mind, how do you think society would have looked upon the products of those scandalous relationships, i.e. biracial children? The truth is, being biracial back then, and some would even argue now, isn't just being a little bit closer to whiteness, it's being rejected by both groups, being neither white nor black. And while I do think it's a good thing that Francesca acknowledges the role that non-white communities play in enforcing colorism, the fact that she tries to tie it all back to white supremacy is, in my opinion, kind of a way of saying, yeah, non-white communities can be prejudiced, but even then it's really because the white people started it first. Just kind of seems like we're shifting the blame back to whitey, even when we're talking about problems that don't relate to white people. And I know that Francesca's videos about light skin privilege revolve around black and Latino communities in the United States, but as someone who is Asian, let me tell you that colorism is not all the fault of white people. Light skin being seen as more desirable is absolutely a thing in Asian countries. In Asia, to make their skin look lighter, people use things like sunscreen to avoid getting any semblance of a tan, makeup, and there are even skin lightening products. Living in Hong Kong, Singapore, and Shanghai, I saw that type of thing all the time. And while some people in response to that might say, well, yeah, the Asians have also been affected by concepts of white supremacy and white colonialism, no. The quest for light skin in Asia dates back to way before white people ever set foot on the continent. You see, by and large, Asian societies are notoriously obsessed with social and economic class. They are classist. And dating back to antiquity, it was assumed that if you had darker skin, it was because you were a laborer and you were toiling away under the sun all day. The white face powder and paint that Asian cultures like the Japanese and the Chinese are known for using, yeah, they're not trying to look like white people, they're trying to look like rich, pasty people who have no reason to be out in the sun. And to this day, a lot of Asian cultures still believe that lighter skin is more beautiful than deeper skin. This is why I'm not against having a conversation about colorism, but I just think that if we do, we probably shouldn't be demonizing or otherizing non-white minorities who do happen to have light skin. And we also probably shouldn't be trying to blame it all back on white people because, like it or not everything wrong is the fault of white people, but I would love to know what you guys think. Is colorism a real thing, and if so, what is the best way to address it? That's it for this video. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.
Okay, y'all, so I'm gonna be right back with my thoughts and comments, and yeah, let me throw some education on this chick, because she don't know what the fuck she talking about. Give me a second. Alright, you guys, so we're back now. Oh my god, okay. So, I should have been taking notes during the video, but to be honest, I kind of mini responded to everything. And to first off, let me try to work my way from the ending back. So to first off, to go to her explanation of colorism is not all on white people. Baby, as I said in the video, your definition of biracial and the biracialness of a black and other person is not going to be the same thing. It's not going to be the same thing at all. I feel like her biracialness and her white passiness, I guess, those comments that the people have told her gave her the nerve to think this was an area that she should tackle. She should have turned this the fuck down. This was not her fucking place to speak. This is what I talk about when I tell y'all that we need respective spaces, and we as black people need to set those respective spaces, because some people don't have no fucking business talking about shit that goes on in our community. Certain shit you want to talk about rappers, okay, that's fine, I don't give a shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, listening to rap music does not make you fucking black. You know what I'm saying? So I don't give a shit. You know what I'm saying? But when you're talking about colorism within our community and you're not black, you better know what the fuck you're saying. First of all, colorism within the black community did stem from white supremacy. Now, I believe that white people created it and we perpetuate it to this day. I do believe that. However, it stemmed from that. China's version of colorism comes from a place of classism. We didn't have that shit. We did not have that shit. We literally had You the Light Slave. We literally had Tyson in the House and I'm trying to think of a dark-skinned person. Goddamn. We had Tyson in the house and Kodak in the fields. That's the first person I can think of. That wasn't the best black person to come up with. But nonetheless, Kodak Black. He in the fields. We had Tyson in the house. You know what I'm saying? That came from white people. There's no effects of classism in there that historically would support that black people also. That's where our colorism came from. So, no, baby. Your country's version of colorism, yeah, that's from a place of classism. You know what I'm saying? There may be some gray areas once you get into the Latino community. Excuse me. Well, no, I would probably say theirs is more so classism too. I mean, I don't know how many of them, because you got to keep in mind, I'm pretty sure there were more than just black people in slavery. I'm sure, I want to say. Can't be sure though, you know what I'm saying? But that's something that I've always questioned and asked people, like, where were all the other people at? So with that being said, because you know, I mean, the Latinos, you know, not black, but darker skinned, you know, races, you know what I'm saying? We're not the only ones with melanin and pigment. But nonetheless, as I was saying, so first off, to start on her ending comparison, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. Yes, that's true. For China, classism was a thing. That was the driving force behind you guys' colorism today. That's not the same for our version of colorism. It is not at all. So moving on from there, a lot of, I get the vibe that this chick, like I said, Daniel Caesar kind of lives in his own bubble. She kind of lives in her own bubble. It doesn't seem like she pulled her head out of her ass to really do some real recon on this video. Like, she even said herself, the, you know, file that, or the site that she looked at, it looked like she would have to sign up and pay for it and this, that, and the other. Well, if you're a non-black person that's going to speak on a black issue, then you need to be willing to put in that effort and that work. If you couldn't find, or if you found the exact, thing, the exact data that she was talking about, you know what I'm saying, and you really want to do your due diligence on this topic, then you would have paid for it. It probably wasn't that much. Like, I've been to a lot of sites where you gotta pay for information. It's really not that much. And it's usually a one-time thing. You know what I'm saying? That's the step that I'm gonna need you to take if you're gonna try to speak on black issues. You know what I'm saying? When I first seen her, I was like, okay, so maybe she's just a Janae Aiko. You know what I'm saying? Without the features. Because Janae Aiko, people like to say that, you know what I'm saying, they love to point out that she's mixed, but Janae Aiko has, in some instances, more blacker features than most people that are black. So, that are black. You know what I'm saying? It's not just a color thing, it's also a feature thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, this nose, that black. That black right there. You know what I'm saying? These eyes, they a little chinky. I hope I'm not related to Lauren Chen. Oh my God. I hope I ain't related to this bitch. At any rate, so with that being said though, there's a lot of ignorant points in her video. And she just seemed like she was spatting off at the mouth. Like, to end off the video with, do you believe colors mixes? That's not a question anymore. That's not a question. That's not there's no question of it. It exists. You know what I'm saying? And then certain things she said, like, oh, it's been proven or it's been shown that multiracial people, lighter skinned people usually come from a biracial background. That's not true. That's not true. Blackness comes in all different cities and sizes. Like, there were certain things that she said, and the minute she said that, I was like, okay, bruh, you gotta be gaslighting. You're not really trying to come to this situation with facts or anything. You're not trying to be helpful. You're gaslighting. Because for one, that's not true. Blackness comes in all shades and sizes. My parents are, is there a picture of them in here? It's not. Okay. Here's one. Alright, so as you can see, mom is light skinned, dad is dark skinned. They're black though. They're black. They're black. We have like a little bit of white side in my mom's family. I don't know what they look like, to be honest. But if you look at me face value, I'm black. Some people will say Blasian. However, if you look at me face value, I'm black. You know what I'm saying? I'm of lighter skin. They're not mixed. She ain't mixed enough to qualify as me being biracial. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, that's just not true. That's not true. That's not true. I wish people would stop spouting out this bullshit like they know what the fuck they're talking about, because she obviously does not. She obviously does not. That baby has no inkling of what really goes on in the color in the black community. Let me say that. I feel like when she talked about demonizing white people, that was her biracial white side speaking, you know what I'm saying, and getting in his feelings, because it just didn't make sense. Demonizing somebody, you can bring up what somebody did without demonizing them. Like, you know what I'm saying? If it happened, it fucking happened. It happened. Slavery was a thing. It happened. You know what I'm saying? We learned about all these people and history and shit, like the lady brought up, Thomas Jefferson. You know what I'm saying? And what he did to them slaves. It happened. You know what I'm saying? We can casually talk about that without it having to be oh, fuck white people. No, not everything is that black and white. You know what I'm saying? And the fact that she said throwing people into different categories is creating division, that gave me right there all I needed to hear to know that this girl does not have the propensity to speak on a topic like this, especially, like, I'm gonna need her to stay within colorism of her own community. I feel like she got the colorism in her community right, but she tried to compare the two, and that's not a thing. That's not a thing. Colorism is very, very simple. If you ask me, in my opinion, the colorism in the black community is very, very simple. We were brought here from Africa. They started breeding with us, making children of lighter skin. You know what I'm saying? Lighter skinned people had to do domesticated work. Darker skinned people had to do the field work. You know what I'm saying? I've heard people say things like for instance, Ayala Van Zant, she said, we both got raped. I was just closer in the house than you were. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how, you know, or you were just closer to him than I was, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I don't know about all that, you know what I'm saying? But nonetheless, it was a thing. It happened. That's how it happened. You know what I'm saying? In my opinion, I don't, you know, all this classism shit, that did not happen for us. That's not how colorism came to be. You know what I'm saying? And it has trickled down into some of us thinking that the closest thing to white is better. You know what I'm saying? But it didn't happen exactly the same way that it happened for your country. So I don't think that's fair for you to make that assessment that it didn't start from white people and we're trying to demonize white people when we're just being fucking honest. That's the fucking truth. You know what I'm saying? As far as everything else, like her talking about how the lady discussed Halle Berry and this and the other, nobody's diminishing the achievements and the awards of black people, of light-skinned black people. Nobody said anything about that. And she literally said herself, that is not to say that they don't work hard. So I don't know what the fuck this bitch is talking about when she's saying, I'm trying not to cuss. I don't know what she's talking about when she's saying, as if to erase what they've done. She literally said and gave that disclaimer, and she didn't have to fucking do that. Like, I feel like people give too many disclaimers nowadays. You know what I'm saying? Oh, well, I don't mean this like that. No, bitch, I say what I mean. I am that type of person. I say what I mean. You know what I'm saying? If I say a fact, and you feel like, oh, well, are you saying da-da-da? It's not my responsibility to clarify with you if that's what I was saying or not. You know what I'm saying? Normani is not going to get as much push in this industry as Ellie Mae is. I did not say that Ellie Mae is not a good artist. I did not say she's not a good singer. I didn't say none of that. But what I said was what I said. So stop trying to imply and pick apart what the fuck I'm saying. Just listen to what the fuck I'm saying. Like, people always want to do that shit. And then they want to try to turn shit on you. Oh, so is that what you're saying? No, bitch. If I was saying that, I would have fucking said it. Like, I'm just that type of person. I'm that concrete. So I don't do the little nuances or whatever. Or the little, you know, let me say something, but it means this. No. Unless I'm throwing shade. Which sometimes I throw it on accident. I ain't gonna lie. But nonetheless, her whole video to me was, like, there were some parts I could agree with, but a lot of parts I'm going to have to agree to disagree on. Y'all let me know down below what y'all thought. I don't want to keep rambling, because I know her reaction video was long, and then I know my intro was kind of long. So, sorry for the length of this video. I really didn't want to be that long, but to be honest, her reaction started off at 15 minutes, so, I mean, it is what it is. But nonetheless, y'all let me know what y'all think down below. Does she just sound ignorant as fuck to y'all, or do y'all think that she has some valid points? I do believe she had some valid points. However, the valid points do not outweigh the bullshit that she was saying. And also for me, I just feel, and let me know down below, comment down below, do you feel that this is even a topic that she should be, herself should be speaking on? Because as far as I'm concerned, we don't go poking our nose in Chinese, you know, China's issues, racial issues, all that stuff. We don't do that. So you know what I'm saying? Like I said in my mukbang video, black people tend to stay to themselves if you don't fuck with them. So, you know what I'm saying? Let me know down below. Do y'all think it's appropriate for her to even feel comfortable to talk about something like this? Do y'all feel that she's overstepping her boundaries? Or do y'all feel like, hey, you know, she can talk about this too? Y'all let me know what y'all think down below, and I will get back to y'all on the next video. Peace. Real quick before I let you guys go, I want to make something clear, you know what I'm saying, in regards to the fact that there's no longer a question of colorism exists. You know what I'm saying? For those of y'all who don't know, Chris Rock, I guess he hosted the NAACP Awards, and he came on the stage and they said no jokes about Jussie Smollett or whatever, and he made a little joke, and or he still, you know, made his joke or whatever, but he used his light skin as a joke. You know what I'm saying? As far as I'm concerned, Chris Rock was canceled to me when the whole thing went on with the white people saying the N-word in front of him, and I think Jerry Seinfeld was there, and even he was like, no, this is not cool, something like that. I don't know. I didn't really fuck with him after that, and to be honest, Chris Rock is just not that damn funny to me. You know what I'm saying? This joke did get some laughter from the crowd, but to me it was like, like, I mean, it was true, but you know, some jokes are logical and some are comedic, and this was not comedic, it was just kind of logical. But with that being said, you know, you can see him in his salty, dark-skinned feelings. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that to violate any dark-skinned people who are listening to this. I'm saying that to say that black men, dark-skinned men in particular, you know what I'm saying, when it's about a dark-skinned woman and she's speaking on her plight about colorism, y'all are nowhere to be found. But let a light-skinned man get a little bit of attention, and y'all are up in arms. You know what I'm saying? The whole, for example, the whole The Rock situation when he was supposed to play Henry Ford. It was usually portrayed as a dark-skinned man. You know, now all of a sudden y'all know the difference between skin pigments. You know what I'm saying? But I'm sure some of y'all same niggas who was saying, oh no, The Rock cannot play Henry Ford, was the same people who was like, there's nothing wrong with Zendaya playing whatever role she was supposed to play a long time ago. I can't remember. You know what I'm saying? Y'all are the same men who will sit there and, you know what I'm saying, tell black women, oh, it's because you're ugly. It's not because, you know, you have dark skin. You know what I'm saying? Some of them same men should look themselves in the mirror, you know what I'm saying, and see if they're keeping that same energy for both genders when it comes to colorism. Because a lot of y'all only keep it when it's from a black man's perspective. You know what I'm saying? But with that being said, y'all let me know down below, like I said, what y'all thought about this video. Do y'all think Lauren was even within the rights to speak on this? Let me know down below. Let me know what y'all thought about my little tidbit. Do y'all think that colorism is not kept the same energy when it comes from dark-skinned black men? Let me know down below, and I will definitely get back to y'all on the next video. And let me know if there's anything y'all want me to react to. Just leave me the link down below, and I will catch y'all in the next video. Peace.